take a dip, and all of a sudden you start to take a bad trip down memory lane, and all of a sudden your friends start to look at you like you're insane because you're telling them in your brain you have a vision of what you can do, but all you keep bringing up is what you've been through. But if you start to look at your life in a way of what you've encountered, you'll start to understand that you've been able to do things that you never really imagined. You'll start to understand that you've already exuded the strength that you could never even fathom, and all of a sudden you stop thinking about driving a Phantom and you start thinking about changing the world. And I mean, isn't that where we all are? Because we can look out at the news and we see things that aren't so pretty. And no matter what you end up owning in life, it doesn't always feel so glitzy and glamorous. You really just want to be happy. And so every day you wake up in the morning and you take a stab at what you really want to do. The problem is you go out into the world and you're worrying about who sees you for you. And that's the day that you grew. Because if you looked in the mirror hard enough in the morning, you would understand that you decided that. You would understand that there is no statute of limitations on who you can be for other people. And I don't know what rhymes with people at the moment, so I'm going to tell you to believe in yourself.
Hey! Yes! Okay.
So,
well,
that is something of a lyrical exercise that I've been trying to do with myself because it puts pressure on both you and me. So it puts pressure on me, but then also like people will be like, spit a poem, and I'm like, about what? And they're like, so it kind of like, it levels the playing field, I feel like, and it allows me to feel comfortable, and I can start from where I feel like I am most strong at, and then I can go to where I need to go. I came to talk to you today about believing in yourself. That's how I understood it, right? Because at the end of the day, you are building a vision that you've had for quite some time, and you're trying to put it in a way that someone else can understand, and then you want to pitch that to someone so that they believe in what you have conceived enough to put power behind it. What I want to talk to you about specifically is the thought process you had when you believed at the height that you would win whatever you're doing. So like the objective of pitching an idea, like I said, is to get someone behind it. And so if you paid attention through this process, there were moments where you either did or did not believe. And now I want you to ask yourself why. Because oftentimes when we don't believe, right, there's like some type of work that you didn't put in, or because you know yourself so well, you can conceive the holes in your vision that someone else could like poke at. And so as you're presenting or as you're working on your vision, you're thinking about the weakness. But now when you believe, it's because you feel like you've either done enough work or your idea is solid and you're like, man, the world really needs this. And so I think the problem is we usually have like the flip-flop feeling at inconvenient times. So when you're supposed to be critiquing yourself and trying to figure out where the holes are, you're believing in yourself. And then when you're supposed to be believing in yourself, you're critiquing your vision and you're poking holes at it. And so I want to talk to you today about basically just having your balance. Because people are going to poke holes at your vision no matter what, especially in certain places. I get upset personally, and I've had to learn to grow past it because I have such a grand vision, right? Which is essentially, if I could put it short, to build the Boys and Girls Club of digital media. To teach youth and anyone aspiring to learn how to tell stories through audio-visual channels so that we can preserve the pieces of our history and society that are necessary so we don't have to start over. No matter what you're doing, content is king and queen. So you're going to have to be able to translate your story. The internet is the cave wall. Hieroglyphs are pictures and videos. The people who tell the stories the best are the ones that get remembered for the longest period of time. So you being able to translate your vision, both the weak points and the strong points, is going to be able to help you. Because if somebody comes and they say they want to invest in your idea, but you can only tell them what you're faithful about and what you're confident about, they're going to understand that there's a problem really, really quickly. Because there's always somewhere that something can go wrong. And if all you know is what can go well, then that's a problem. And so that's why I don't discourage people from thinking about the holes in, number one, your idea, but then also what's going to happen is, most importantly, when you encounter the holes in your idea, you're going to encounter the holes in yourself. And if you're not ready for that, that's going to be a big problem. Because you're going to come against people who either A, don't believe in you, that don't matter, whose voices are really loud, or people that you need to believe in you who are struggling to, and all of a sudden you'll fold under pressure because you feel like you lost them already. You can draw strength from both sides, your weaknesses and your strengths. And really all we're talking about right now is self-awareness, because that's at the root of it what entrepreneurship is. Because when you're building an idea, you're trying to solve a problem that a whole bunch of other people experience. So if you can't solve it properly for yourself, or you don't know yourself well enough to know if it's solving your problem, how could you know if it's solving someone else's? And then when someone else comes to you and says, this isn't solving my problem, all of a sudden you get defensive because that hole in you may be like an uncle that didn't believe in your idea, that said it the exact same way. And it'll be that little split second of a trigger that they say, well, why is this idea worthy? Or why should I believe in you? And all of a sudden, you go down memory lane to when you were like 10 and somebody said they didn't believe in you. And now all of a sudden, the 10-year-old you reacts to the no or the criticism rather than the person that you are. Which, if you're in this room, you've invested in yourself, you've invested time into who you are, and you're already here. And one thing that I'm realizing about life in general, you have already won. You've already won, because how many people are here on a Sunday to build a vision? So you believe, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't be spending the rest day doing the hard work that nobody else wants to do. And so while you're going through this, right, there's going to be a lot of voices. There's going to be a lot of opinions. There's going to be a lot of people trying to tell you what you should and shouldn't do, why you should and shouldn't believe. I want you to zone in on you. Because when it comes down to it, it's just going to be you with your back against the wall, and you're going to have to knuckle it up against the people that don't believe, and also yourself. It's always you versus you. And so I could talk to you about a whole bunch of other things and things that I'm doing, trying to monetize, trying to scale, trying to do this, trying to do that. All of that comes secondary to knowing who you are. Because regardless, you're going to succeed and you're going to fail. Who are you when you fail? Who are you when you succeed? Who are you when neither one of those things can be conceived at all? And that's going to be what makes or breaks your vision. Because at the end of the day, like, you came up with it, it takes you and your backbone to make it succeed, to make it thrive. And so just be real about yourself with who you are in the low moments as well as the high moments. And yeah, just love you. Love you. And the thing that, I'll leave you with this. I used to feel like I had to get to a place to be happy. And then the things that I envisioned to happen started happening, and I wasn't any happier. So I thought, like, I'm looking for these signs. I'm on the road, and like, I'll get real with you guys, right? I came back from California January 2018, this year. I had taken a one-way trip with $100 in my pocket because I couldn't figure out who I was. And I knew that where I was, nobody was going to demand more of me because, to put it simply, most people like me aren't where I am. So when I go and I see young boys and girls in schools that look like me, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they don't know how to articulate their emotions, and they've never stepped on any stage. So all of what I've done already looks like where I'm supposed to be, so they're not going to challenge me, right? Because like, oh my gosh, you're a young black guy, you can read, you can articulate, you've been on stages, amazing, you're done, and I'm not. And so I needed to get to a place where I was able to tell myself that I wasn't done. When I came back from Cali, I thought I was coming back home, but then home didn't exist, right? Home didn't exist because there was, where I was staying, there was no heat, no hot water. So it put me in this immediate fight or flight mode. Essentially the word people use is homeless. I can't stand using that word. However, that's what the definition is. I had to open up for Damon John of Shark Tank, FUBU, Billionaire. I had to do that 2 weeks later. A month later, I'm sitting down and I'm talking to Gary Vee. 2 months later, I'm on the stage at Harvard, speaking to kids from 20 different countries about entrepreneurship. A month after that, 3 days ago, I'm on a stage, Project North Star. 2 days from that, I'm here talking to you. And I've done all of that without a home. Right? But not even, for me, what I'm realizing is, I had this grand vision of what success felt like. And then only when I had nothing but was giving all that I had did I realize that that's what success was. And so understanding who you are when you have nothing is absolutely necessary. And I never knew what that was like. So I had to face myself when I didn't feel like I even had a self. And then what you're able to do from that will change your entire life. So I encourage you to go to a place where like there's so much pressure that there's no choice but for a diamond to form. Because it's necessary. And so you can do it to yourself. So that was the one-way trip to Cali, and then coming back was like, the universe is going to do it. Once you ask for it, it's a wrap. I'm just letting you know. Because what I asked for was permission to pick people up from the dark.
Yes.
Don't you think I would need to experience the dark?
Yes.
So like I had to realize that what I was experiencing is what I asked for, what was necessary to make the real vision come true. And all of a sudden, sometimes we think it's like that money or that like investor or that whatever. It's always you. It's never anything outside. It's always you. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care what you have, who has your back. It's the weakest part of you that's going to make your vision possible. Because that's going to make you so aware that it doesn't matter, that you've already won. Because that's really what it is. We're all in search of finding out who we are. And only in extreme heights of emotion do you figure that out. It's either really low lows or the really high highs. Because you'll get exposed for the ego you do or don't have. Or you'll get exposed for the value you do or don't have when you have these like things. So like I often just imagine people as I'm walking down the street and I see the Louis Vuitton and the long like driver coats from Barney's and things like that. And I'm like, is that a badge of honor or is it armor? So you have to look at what you're trying to acquire in life, what you already have, and is it a badge of honor or are you covering up wounds? Because we spoke briefly about wounds, right? So what's going to happen is if you go on this journey and you don't know yourself, essentially you got cut and you needed stitches, but you didn't get stitches. And the moment somebody triggers that wound, you're going to remember the prior trauma and the current trauma. But if you heal, you can be like, damn, that hurts. But I remember how I healed last time. I am not going to go deeper because this is where I live, right? This is like, so currently I'll tell you about the project I'm working on, then I'll get out of here. I'm working on a documentary series entitled Where's the Love? And it's on what does it mean to love yourself? And I've had to start with like, what is self? Who are you? Where are you currently? Where have you been? And where are you going? And so while I asked to be able to help you, and I had to learn how to help me first. And so it's an honor to be here in front of you as you guys are partaking in whatever journey it is. And this is just a piece of it. You guys, this is a very small piece. I want you to also understand that. I don't think that we have like, I think the life expectancy of our generation is like 90 to 100. You got like 60 years left. 60. And sometimes you put too much pressure on a small period of time, you have 60 years left. At the very least, cut in half, you got 30. So I just want to encourage you to keep digging deep into who you are. Feel free to connect with me. I'm always here. I'm always here to help in whatever capacity that I can. If you would like to sit down and have a conversation with me at some point, those can be in the form of just interpersonal when we're joining, or it could be a podcast, or however you would like to do it. But I just want to make sure that the experiences that I have encountered and am currently going through are used to help be someone else's platform for their understanding. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And as I say always, stay home.